Hello, you beautiful soul. Welcome to the podcast. This is Zia, the Mystic Visionary, and I'm holding space for the new paradigm, putting my attention into this unseen realm that's being birthed right now. I'm getting ready to pick my word for the week. If you don't know what that's about, go back to episode 1 where I explain it fully. So I've got my little box here, and I'm going to look in there, take my little crystal out. And I'm searching around for the perfect word for today so I can go into meditation and contemplate. The word is safety. Interesting word, safety. A couple of weeks ago, I had the word secure, so safety kind of goes with that. We'll see what happens. So now I'm going to go off into meditation and connect with my guides and see what safety really means in the new paradigm. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Safety. Wow, interesting. I have to say that when I go into the field, I connect with my guides. And my main guide is Elspeth. And she is my 8th great-grandmother, and she is a Irish Senshi. And a Senshi is a storyteller. So she really came to me during this meditation for safety, and all these stories were coming in my head. And part of what she does for me is she helps me translate in a way what I'm trying to say through story. And so that's what came to me, a story. So I'm going to tell a story about what I think about safety. Years ago, I'd say 20 years ago, I was in therapy, and the person, she was a really great therapist, and she did something called EMDR, and that's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or I think that's it. And what that does is, it has you don't even have to think, and she asks you questions and moves her fingers and you watch her finger, and it does something to open up channels in your subconscious. But before she even started doing that, she said we have to begin by creating a place where you feel safe. And she said, do you have a memory of some place that you feel safe? And I did, and I was remembering back in my 30s, and I lived in California, we had a cabin in the San Bernardino Mountains. And our cabin was on the side of a hill, and the back of our deck, the back of the house was the deck, and it looked over the national forest. And so you could sit out there, and all I could see for miles around was just the trees, the pine trees, and the smell of the pine trees and the blue sky, and it just was this peaceful, tranquil place for me. So I told her about that, and she said, well, what would a word be that would bring you back to that place? So I came up with the word cabin. So I would think of the word cabin, and then now that I've explained this to her, this feeling, this sensation I had when I sat on the deck and looked at the trees, it was peace, it was calm, it was safety. I always felt completely content and safe there. So she had this one word. So if I were, during this process of EMDR, if I was to, have something bad come up or whatever, she would just be able to say cabin, or I would be able to say cabin, and then I would be taken to that place of peace and calm and safety. So when I meditated today, I remembered that, and I remembered how I created a sense of safety from a memory in my head, and that during the time that I worked with her, we used that word pretty frequently because sometimes things kind of got hairy, and I would go cabin, and then I would breathe, and I would, take myself back to that place, and And what would happen, and she described to me, and I've learned since then, that that sense of safety that you imagine in your mind, it brings you into this parasympathetic, your nervous system calms down. Instead of being in fight and flight, you're in, peace and calm. And nothing has changed other than your thinking. A memory was brought up. I started to get upset about the memory or overwhelmed by the memory. I said the word cabin. Cabin reminded me of that peace and calm. I suddenly calmed down. My breathing changed. I was back in that place of peace and calm. But nothing in my external world had changed. I was sitting in her office. She was sitting in her chair. I was sitting in my chair. But I went through this range of emotions of re-experiencing this trauma and then suddenly being in peace and calm. Well, after that, I remembered that in this meditation, but then I remembered in the last, say, 15 years, 10 years, I have taken that a step further. And I use that in my meditation. And I have created a space in my subconscious, in my imagination, that is that same sort of space. But it's no longer a cabin. It's a place in the woods. And in this place in the woods, there's a stream and there's the pine trees. And I have a little alcove where I've created like an outdoor bed with a canopy. And there's a stream going by, and there's an area where the water wells up, and there's like a hot springs. And I can envision that in my head. And what I further envision for my sense of safety is I visualize this little area of the earth that is my sacred space. It is broken off from the planet, and it just sort of hovers there. No one can get on this land. And while I'm in this state, it's just this area that's completely mine. I don't have to worry about people walking in or airplanes flying over or someone knocking at the door. It's like I have just transported myself in my imagination to this beautiful spot where I can lay on this bed and under this canopy, look at the trees, watch the water go by. I can even go in the little hot springs, and I'm at total peace and serenity. And then that allows me to lay back into that bed and open my mind and allow myself to go into a meditative state where safety is no concern whatsoever. I am completely free, and I'm allowing myself to go into that quantum field, that space of, I call it the 0 point, because I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not striving for anything. I'm not, trying to accomplish anything. I'm just in that 0 point where I'm connected in the total moment, in the present moment, and I'm safe and I'm secure and I'm serene. And that allows me the opportunity to connect with that greater field. Like last week, I talked about the oneness. It's like that's where I can connect with the oneness. And that oneness is that space of deep connection, unconditional love, unexplored possibilities, limitless ability to do and explore anything. So as I contemplated that today in my meditation, I was thinking how all that is created in my mind. And what it all brings me to is this sense of being in the present moment. And that led me to think about some books I've read, which you may have read. Ram Dass in Be Here Now. Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now. Wayne Dyer in his book, Get Into the Gap. Those books all talk about being present, being in the now, being in the moment and living in the moment. And I think that's what safety is in the new paradigm. In the new paradigm, we create our sense of safety within ourselves. And that sense of safety comes out of not fearing the past, not fearing the future, or worrying about the future, or creating problems in the future that don't even exist. We bring our sense of safety to this moment. And where am I in this moment? How is my life? I am safe. I am secure. I can create that by just taking a moment to go inward and to breathe, to get myself into that peace and calm instead of fight or flight. And suddenly, when you get yourself into that peace and calm, your body begins to recognize that you're safe. And everything starts to relax. Nothing has changed in your outside world. The only thing that's changed is your thinking. And that's what I think this is all about in the new paradigm, that we create our own sense of safety by being present in the moment, by being connected to the possibilities, the greater possibilities. And the only way we can do that is in the present moment. I think in the old paradigm, we're constantly chasing something in the future, or we're remorseful, or we're trying to recover from something in the past. I know for me, I've spent a huge portion of my life trying to recover from my childhood abuse and young adult abuse, thinking that it defined me and that I needed to heal that before I could be whole. And that a lot of people are that way. It's like they bring their past into their future or into their present, which then defines their future. Then there's other people who are so worried about the future that their life gets forgotten about in the present moment because they're constantly living for some future event that will make them happy. And I really think I spent some years being a life coach, and one of the things was, the idea of goal setting and, taking these steps towards your goals. I think we get so focused on goal setting that we forget to live in the present. And anyway, that's another story. But we can't live in the future or the past and really live with a sense of safety. Sense of safety comes from being present in the moment, being present in wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. In the current paradigm, or the collapsing paradigm, I think that fear, again, is our biggest block from being able to live a full and rich life. And safety is a huge concern. And I think a lot of people create safety by, having video cameras in their place, or they have locks on their doors, which I was one of those people, or security lights, and all the things we do to make us feel safe, physically safe, financially safe, emotionally safe, when in reality, the safety is really an illusion. And yes, you can create safety by living behind a big gate with a power door, keypad that you have to enter, or, having bars on your windows like all those places I've seen in LA. And yeah, you can protect yourself and keep yourself in a sense of feeling safe. But in reality, it starts in your head, because that fear can take on a life of its own and control you. When I think about my spot on the river and my spot in the woods that I created in my head, or even when I think about my word cabin and what that means to me, I can stop and connect with that. And when I stop and connect with that and breathe, and have that sense of peace and safety and it changes my biology. It changes my personality. It changes who I am and how I react and how I walk in the world. And that's 100% created in my mind. Our mind is a powerful tool that we have not learned to fully use to our best ability. And I think safety is one of those things that we could learn to use our mind to help create in our lives. We have been conditioned to believe, like I've said 100 times, that what we desire is outside of ourselves. When in reality, and totally in this new consciousness that's being created in the new world, is that everything comes from inside of us. It's an inside-out projection. Whatever you see in the world is a projection of what you believe and you think inside of you. If you believe the world's unsafe, then you'll see an unsafe world. If you believe that you're in lack and limitation, then you'll have lack and limitation. If you believe in prosperity consciousness, then you'll have more prosperity. If you believe that life is hard and then you die, like my old boss did in Riverside, then what are you going to get? Life is going to be hard until you die. So everything in your world is a reflection of your own thinking. And safety is part of that. Safety is just another one of those things. And I'm not saying you should just like run wild and not care about safety in any way, like, physical safety. You have to take precautions. You have to think about things. You have to be wise. But I also know that you have to understand, first and foremost, that your outside world is a reflection of your inside. And whether you want to believe that or not, it's happening. It's like, I remember another story. When I was in college, I went to college late in life because I didn't go when I was young. But I was in a speech class and I gave a speech about the law of attraction. And most of the people in my class were in their 20s or younger, and I was not. And I talked about the law of gravity, and everybody agreed that if I, picked up, I had a pencil, if I let go of this pencil, it would fall to the floor. And everybody was in 100% agreement with that. But then when I talked to them about the law of attraction, they all poo-pooed it and they laughed. And when I said, if you believe that you're going to get, that your class is hard and you're going to get a C, then you're going to get a C. If you believe that, man, I'm going to ace this class because it's easy for me to learn and this teacher is a great teacher and I'm going to absorb all the things I need to know to get an A in this class, then you'll get an A in the class. And they all thought I was a little nutty, but it's true. It's true because it's a law, a universal law. And we believe in gravity, but a lot of times we don't believe in the other universal laws. So I think that's an element of the new paradigm that is becoming more true. More people are believing in those laws, the universal laws. So I think safety is one of those. Safety is something we create within ourselves, and safety comes to us when we can bring ourselves into the present moment, focus on the here and now, be here now, as Ram Dass said. The power of now, Eckhart Tolle, and getting in the gap, Wayne Dyer. That gap is between outside yourself and inside yourself. There's this place of knowing. You get to that place inside, and you create a gap between this reality that we are so invested in that we think is real, and the truth of who you are, and the truth of your inner being, which is always under your control, totally under your control. So I'm going to say safety is an inside job. And in the new paradigm, it means connecting with the present moment, connecting with that peace and calm and getting out of fight or flight. That's what it requires. And in that space of peace and calm, you're able to make better decisions about your life. And you know then that you have made a decision, taking things into consideration without all the fear factor involved. And getting out of fear is our number one thing. We really, really, really have to get out of fear. You can't have a sense of safety if you're living in fear. Well, that was a great word. Very similar to secure, but different in a lot of ways. All right. Well, thanks for listening. I'm coming up on my 20 minutes and I'm trying to keep it short. Have a great week, and I will be back next week with a new word.